the topic that we are going to discuss for today, and that is the review on immunology. And at the last portion, we have also review on epidemiology. Okay, so this is already in PDF copy, and after our lecture this afternoon, I will send it to our Google Classroom. Okay, so let's begin now the discussion. As you have seen in our screen, it's a review on immunology. So there is WHO, or World Health Organization. This topic or this lecture is adapted from the presentation of World Health Organization. So I think this is the most reliable source of the discussion of immunology, and they have very timely resources. Okay, so let's move forward to the divisions of immunology. So we have here adaptive immunity, innate immunity, infectious disease, which is our subject. We have developmental immunology, and then we have also immunodeficiency, autoimmunity, cancer immunology, and we have transplantation immunology. So there are a lot of divisions under this topic, but ours is on infectious disease. Okay, so moving forward, let us define first immunology according to WHO, of course. So they defined, the organization defined immunology as the following. So it composed of immune system, it composed of immunity, immune response, and the following are their definitions. Okay, so we will better understand the science behind immunology using these terms. So first, recall the definition of immune system. So of course, the system, it comprises of cells. Cells make up the tissues, and tissues makes up molecules, and then our organs and the organs made up our system. So later on, I will present to you the different organs, the different cells, different molecules that under our immune system. And then we have also immunology, so study of structure and function, of course, of the immune system. And then immunity, this is on our body, the resistance of a host to pathogens and their toxic effects. And then the immune response, it is the feedback or the collective and coordinated response or feedback of our body, the host, against the foreign substance that comes inside or that pass through the barriers of our body. So this immune response, as stated here, is mediated by the cells and molecules of the immune system. Okay? So moving forward, I know we are all aware of the roles of our immune system. So these are just general roles of immune system. First, we have defense against microbes. So definitely it involves defense against pathogens. It includes also our infectious pathogens and opportunistic pathogens. And then we have defense against the growth of tumor cells. So our immune system, as part of the division a while ago, it has also a defense against against tumor cells. So we have their defense in the development of cancer. So we have also here homeostasis. So immune system tries to balance the things that is happening, the things that are happening inside our body. So destruction of abnormal or dead cells that will later on produce tumors, or it will, for example, dead RBC, the WBC, antigens and antibody complex. It destroys the immune cells or our immune system organs, destroys it to produce homeostasis. Okay? And then moving forward, so this is what I have mentioned a while ago. our immune system our immune system is composed of three parts or three divisions. First, we will talk about organs, and then later on we will talk about cells, and then we will have molecules. Okay, so for the organ system, we have the following. So we have here tonsils, adenoids, lymph nodes, lymphatic vessels, thymus, lymph nodes here on the armpit area. So we have behind the neck, near the armpit, and then we have also the spleen, and we have Peyer's patches, appendix, bone marrow, and then the lymph nodes in our behind in our leg, and then we have lymphatic vessels. So that would be for the organs. What is most interesting is for our immune system cells. Okay, so the cells. We have here from letter A to letter M. So our picture here shows us the differentiation, how our cells originated, starting from the bone marrow. So the bone marrow, if you just take down notes, this is the site in the body where most of the cells of the immune system are produced. So they have immature, or what we call as the very famous stem cells. Okay, so from that bone marrow, it produced letter B there, the stem cells. So these cells have potential to differentiate, to mature into different cells in the immune system, such as our letter I to M there, letter C, and letter D. So let's have first letter C, which is the thymus. So our stem cell, one of the mature cell that it can differentiate to is the thymus. So the thymus class is an organ. If you can recall, it's an organ located in the chest, which instructs immature lymphocytes to become mature T lymphocytes. Okay, so that's the thymus. Another organ or another cell that our stem cell can produce is the letter D here. So the letter D produces our B cells. So these B cells or these lymphocytes class arise in the bone marrow, of course, and differentiate into plasma cells. So plasma cells here, letter G is the plasma cell. So again, the bone marrow can move forward to being a stem cell, and the stem cell can become a B cell, and this B cell can become a plasma cell. So the plasma cell, this develops the immunoglobulin for serum and secretion. So the immunoglobulin here, we have IgG, IgM, IgE, and IgA. Okay, so that's our immunoglobulins. Now, for the other cells that our stem cells can differentiate into, we have letter I, letter J, K, L, and M. So they have the names here beside the figure. Letter I is our neutrophils, or they are referred also class as PMN cell or polymorphonuclear cell. So kindly take that down. Polymorphonuclear cell or PMN cell. So this is a type of cell found in the bloodstream that rapidly ingests microorganisms and kills them. And we have letter J here, monocytes. So it's a type of phagocytic cell in our blood. And letter K, of course, we are all familiar with this, our red blood cells that carries the oxygen going to our lungs. And then we have letter L, the platelets. These are small cells in the blood where it's important for clotting. And then letter M, we have dendritic cells. So dendritic cells, these are important too because they are being presented in, they are useful in presenting antigen to activate our immune system. Okay, So these are the cells that are involved, or you will always hear these cells later on as we discuss pathophysiology of our infectious diseases, okay? Because in the pathophysiology, it involves also activation of immune response. So these cells are the responsible for the immune response, okay? So moving forward to the immune system molecules. So we have here innate immunity, we have complement system, and then we have acute phase proteins, and then cytokines and chemokines. Okay, so what's the most important example here is the complement system. So it composed of 30 blood proteins that function in an ordered fashion where they will defend our body against infection. So most proteins in the complement system are found in our liver. Okay, so some of the proteins of the complement system, they coat germs to make them more easily taken up by the cell neutrophil. So the neutrophil is the one who phagocytes it. So other complement components act as chemical signals to attract neutrophils to the infection. So these complement proteins assembles on the surface of the microorganism, forming a complex so that the cells or the immune cells will identify it, specifically neutrophil, and they will destroy it. Okay, and then we have also cytokines. So these are also important set of proteins in our body. So these are small proteins as hormones in the hormones for our immune system. So they are produced in response to threat and represent the communication network for the immune system. So in some cases, cells of the immune system communicate with each other directly, touching each other. So just like what I have shown here in the picture. So when they communicate with each other, it can trigger activation or secretion, for example, of cytokine or mga cytokines. So this system allows very precise information to be delivered and alert the body. So it communicates with each other. It activates the complement system, the cytokine, the chemokines, and the other. Aside from the molecules, it also activates the organs that were mentioned a while ago. So with this example here, we have the antigen, which is color yellow. And then after the presentation of antigen, the antibody responses, and then there would be complement cascade. So this is the detailed process here where activation of molecules and cells is are presented. And then at the bottom part, it causes the cell to burst. The cell will swell first and burst, and therefore it will expose its components and eventually die. So that is the summary of how it activates, how they communicate and activates immune response. Okay, and then we have also for acquired immunity, we have antibodies, chemokines, and cytokines. So what's the difference is in our innate immunity, we don't have yet the antibodies here, but in our acquired immunity, we already have antibodies. So we have here in the antigen presenting cell there, helper T cells are activated together with the B cells, also with the cytokines and the memory B cells. Together, all of these things are being activated, and then they will produce antibody. So the antibody now will going to be specific for that antigen. So the next time, in this next picture here, the next time that the harmful thing that will enter again the body, like for example, a virus or a bacteria, the antigen, the same antigen it carries, will activate our antibody that was already prefabricated in the first exposure. So these antibodies will now recognize the antigen from the bacteria, from the virus, and eventually it will do the information cascade, and then they will attack this harmful things. So the immune cells, the immune molecules will attack the harmful things, and that's how the immune response work out. They will try to kill these bacteria and viruses inside the body. Okay, so generally, the evolution of immunity in our body, we have a general immunity, but it's divided into two. We have the innate immunity, which is non-specific, and it has immediate onset. And then we have acquired immunity. Okay, so acquired immunity is specific and delayed onset. So under acquired immunity, we have humoral immune response, where our antibodies are being produced. And then we have, in the cellular part, we have T cell activation. Okay, so moving forward to the types of immunity. So we have here, in the innate immunity, in the first circle, there are immune cells here, and an adaptive immunity, there are another circle with the immune cells. So they have different examples of cells, but the common for the two are the T cell and the natural killer T cell. Okay, so our innate immunity class, this is the non-adaptive. So this is the first line of immune response. Okay, so it relies on mechanism that exists before the infection has occurred. And then we have acquired adaptive. So this is the secondary response. So if innate or if our non-adaptive fails, we will have our secondary or acquired response. It relies on the mechanisms that adapt after the infection has already occurred. So this acquired or adaptive immune system is handled by our T and B lymphocytes. Okay, and it has also one cell that determines one antigenic determinants. On the other hand, also, it is based on our genetic makeup, just to add on the discussion. So it relies on already formed antigens in our body. So it has rapid response within minutes of infection. Our non-adaptive immune system can be activated. But what is disadvantage for innate? It has no memory of the exposure. Okay, so it does not lead to clonal expansion, or it does not lead to long-term protection. Okay, but the adaptive or the acquired immunity, so it's based upon the resistance acquired during lifetime. So it relies on genetic events, on cellular growth. It responds more slowly, but it has memory, stored memory. It can allow us to have repeated exposure. So it leads to faster, stronger response later on, even though it responds slowly, but it can create faster response. Okay. So in our innate immunity, the mechanism we have here, mechanical barriers, we have surface secretion. Example under these are the skin, acidic pH in stomach, and then we have the cilia. And then we have cellular defense mechanism that was mentioned way before. There were natural killer cells, eosinophils, neutrophil, basophil, and mast cells, and the monocyte, and macrophage. And then we have also the adaptive immunity here. So our adaptive or acquired immunity has two types, the, the natural and the artificial. So the natural here, we have clinical and subclinical infection. Okay, and then for the artificial, we have vaccination from live, killed, and purified antigen. Okay, so that is for the adaptive. But for the passive, yung galing sa breast milk, sa placenta, that's a passive natural. And then for immune serum, immune cells activation, immune response, that is a passive artificial immunity. Okay. I know this rings a bell every time I will hit the keywords because we have already have this discussion during our microbiology. So moving forward with adaptive immunity. So we have here cell-mediated immune response, humoral immune response. Okay, so the cell-mediated immune response called as CMIR. Ang responsible for this is our T lymphocytes. And for humoral immune response, which is HIR, this is responsible, the B lymphocytes and our mediated antibodies. Okay? So this is what happened for cell-mediated immune response. So there are different labels here of the cells that are involved in the process. This is a very detailed one, but we will not really discuss on this in depth, just showing you that the process is involving a lot of cells. So this is the cell-mediated immune response. And let's discuss the levels of response. So the primary response is the production of specific clones on effector T cells. So it develops in several days and does not limit the infection. Well, the secondary response is more pronounced and it has faster response and it's more effective. And this time, it's limited to the previous infection. So an example is the cytotoxic reaction against intracellular parasites, or for other cases, delayed hypersensitive reaction with tuberculin tests. Now, moving forward with the humoral response. So this is what happened with humoral response. So the antigen is presented and the beta cells is activated, and then at the end, antibodies are activated or released. Okay, so this is the process for humoral immune response. So the antibodies that were produced as the product of humoral immune response are the following. We have IgG, IgM, IgA, IgD, and IgE. Okay, so these are gamma globulin fraction of serum proteins. They can be Y-shaped or T-shaped polypeptides. So ito siyang ating mga examples. And you'll have your activity on this for the group discussion next meeting. So this is how the structure of our antibodies look like. It has a light chain and a heavy chain, and it has an antigen binding site. Okay? And then this is what happened if the stimulus from the antigen that's coming from the virus or the bacteria enters our body. So this is the antibody titer. If you can see, it started from 0 and the first stimulus happened. So it raises the number of antibody, and also our IgM is produced. And on the first stimulus, IgG is also produced, causing an antibody increase in antibody titer. So the IgG will therefore decline And then when there is second stimulus introduced, there will be already a memory stored to activate again the immune system. So IgM alone does not produce memory. It needs to be um, it needs to be collaborated with IgG to produce a memory and identify the second stimulus as parang previous anemia na meron na silang nagawang bala for that, and that's stored into their system already, or meaning to say they have developed a specific ammunition for that antigen. So the antibodies has already prepared for that. Okay, so no need to go back from zero because they have prepared already for that antigen. But this immune response, though this is very specific and complicated and tawag nito, comprehensive, it also fails. There are times that our immune response fails, and these are because of hypersensitivity reaction of the host cell or of the body. It depends on the genetic makeup of the body. Merong mga conditions that causes hypersensitivity reactions like comorbidities. And also, the immunodeficiency can be from pathologic events, meron siyang comorbidities, or meron siyang post-surgical treatment that can cause immunodeficiency. So these things here, if you will become practicing clinical pharmacist, you have to remember that hypersensitivity reactions and immunodeficiencies will compromise the body of the host. Therefore, if there are infections like right now in the pandemic, these people should be protected from acquiring any microbes, any pathogens, because their body cannot fight it very well, or cannot does not have the strength to combat these things. Okay? So that's for the immune system or immunology. Now, moving forward with the overview on epidemiology. Okay, so this is a continuation already with our topic. So epidemiology, from the word epi, upon, demos, people, and ology, science. So this is the science that deals with what falls upon people and bridges between biomedical, social, and behavioral sciences. Okay, so the study of epidemiology is more focused on the occurrence and distribution of health-related diseases and events. It deals with specialized population. It includes the study which determines influencing factors such as different problems or different situations in the community that affects occurrences of the morbidities in a certain population. Okay, so our epidemiology are being studied or being practiced by what we call as epidemiologists. So these epidemiologists, these are professionals who strive to study and control the factors that influence the occurrence of disease or health-related conditions and events in specified populations and societies. So they should have experience in population thinking and epidemiologic methods, and is knowledgeable about public health and causal inference in health. So our epidemiologists, so that they can have a sound inference, they should have an acquired knowledge in public health because of the emphasis on disease prevention. They should have also knowledge on clinical medicine because of the emphasis on disease classification and diagnosis, or yung mga numerators, as what they call it. And then they should have also a background on pathophysiology. So the pathophysiology background is needed so that the epidemiologist would understand the basic biological mechanism of the disease, the natural history of the disease occurrence. And aside from that, epidemiologists should also have a strong biostatistics skills because of the need to quantify disease frequency and its relationships to antecedents. Okay, and also since the disease occurs in the community, so our epidemiologists must be well-rounded, and they have to be good with social sciences because of the need to understand the events or the occurrence of these diseases in social context, in which the why the disease occurs in a certain population and why it does not occur in the other population. So they have to know social determinants of these different health phenomena. So if you want to become an epidemiologist, those are the things that you need to establish. So for epidemiology, we have two types. We have descriptive epidemiology, and then we have analytic epidemiology. So descriptive epidemiology, typically it studies community health survey. So we have here synonyms like cross-sectional study and descriptive study. So it focuses on three things. It has person, place, and time. Okay, so for person, it involves age, gender, socioeconomic status, marital status, ethnicity, behaviors, habits, things like that. And for place, we have mga geographic restrictions, the widespread of the disease. Is it an outbreak, a sporadic event, an epidemic, or an endemic only, or a pandemic? So if it's offshore, what does the implication later on? So if it involves climate effects, the temperature is included in their study, humidity, and other combined effects of these things. And then there, aside from those, we can also focus on the setting, like in the city, we have what we call the rich urban and the poor urban, the suburban, or what we call as the squatter. So there are many factors that they can consider in the descriptive epi just in the place alone. Okay, for the time can be changing or stable, like for example, epidemic or endemic, or for example, they have time trends, like it can be seasonal or whatever is the trends in across time. Okay, so that is under descriptive epidemiology. While on the other hand, analytic epidemiology is testing a hypothesis. So it involves study designs such as cohort, case control, and experimental design. So they test specific hypotheses about relationship of a disease to a specific cause by conducting epidemiologic studies. So this type of study involves three factors. So we have agent, the host, and the environment. So we are all aware that agents are biological agents like microorganism. Another one is physical agent. So physical, this can be temperature, radiation, trauma. For chemical, another type of agent, we have acids, poisons, tobacco, nicotine exposure. And for the environment, it's another factor under agent. We have nutrients in the diet, allergens, exposure to allergens, occupational threat, for example. And it also includes also psychological experiences. Okay? And now for host, they also study genetic makeup or yung pharmacogenomics, the immunologic status, personal characteristic, personal behavior. So they can include in the study the hygiene, the how they practice at home, what are their um, common practices that affects their health. And then for the environment, of course, we have living conditions, the housing, the water supply, the sewage, and the atmosphere. If it's in urban poor areas, very close to each other yung mga bahay, so there are mga shared exposures to allergens. Okay. So those are the things under analytic epidemiology. So if you become a clinical pharmacist, most of the time we are participating with analytical epidemiology, or we are under a team, like in a healthcare team, we are under research that commonly involves with analytic epidemiology. Okay, so our epidemiology class is very helpful in problem solving, especially right now in our situation. So it helps in integrating principles. So the first principle that can be integrated is information science, and then we have also integrating principles about environment or the complex of system. And then the third one is about professional practice area. So these all are locked in together to help solve problems in our community. And if you can observe in the practice right now, there are a lot of people that are being employed or being team as one and act as epidemiologists or help to solve the problem of the COVID-19. Okay, so we started from the immune system, the very small cells that is activated to cause immune response, and this immune response can be is not foolproof. No, it can fail due to immunodeficiency and due to hypersensitivity. All of these things happen are part of the study of epidemiology and part of our responsibility as clinical pharmacists, most especially if you will be assigned as the infection control or the ID pharmacist in your area of practice, because as declared or as required by PhilHealth, there should be one infectious disease pharmacist in every hospital. And these things that we have discussed this morning, these are all part later on of your job as an ID pharmacist. So that ends my lecture for this morning.